Welcome back, Daisy Cakes. I am going to be doing another TBR pick from the Retro Hugos, this time in 1943, because I am Daisy X Machina, the drag queen detective who investigates all things speculative in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Last time I did the 1941 Retro Hugos, they skipped 1942, so now we're on 1943. These were actually picked in 2018. What I'm going to do is list all the nominees, tell you who won, and then select one book, not necessarily the one that won, but from the nominees, I'll be picking one book to add to my TBR. Getting the show on the road, the list of nominees are Robert Heinlein writing as Anson MacDonald, Beyond This Horizon. Olaf Stapledon for Darkness and the Light. Curt Siodmak for Donovan's Brain. Austin Tappan Wright for Islandia. E. Doc Smith for Second Stage Lensmen. And Dorothy Macardle for The Uninvited. And the winner was, of course, Robert Heinlein's Beyond This Horizon. Again, he wrote it under the pseudonym Anson MacDonald. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look up the blurbs in Goodreads. I don't want to read the Wikipedia entry because sometimes that has spoilers, but I know the blurbs in Goodreads is basically what you'll see on the back of the jacket. So we start with Beyond This Horizon by Robert Heinlein. Utopia has been achieved. For centuries, disease, hunger, poverty, and war have been found only in the history tapes, and applied genetics has given men and women the bodies of athletes and a lifespan of over a century. They should have been very happy, but Hamilton Felix is bored, and he is the culmination of a star line, each of his last 30 ancestors chosen for superior genes. Hamilton is, as far as genetics can produce one, the ultimate man. And this ultimate man can see no reason why the human race should survive, and has no intention of continuing the pointless comedy. However, Hamilton's life is about to become less boring. A secret cabal of revolutionaries who find utopia not just boring, but desperately in need of leaders who know just what needs to be done, are planning to revolt and put themselves in charge. Knowing of Hamilton's disenchantment with the modern world, they have recruited him to join the glorious revolution. Big mistake. The revolutionaries are about to find out that recruiting a Superman was definitely not a good idea. Now, I have read a lot of Heinlein. I don't remember reading this one. And I am always fascinated by books that have a utopia setting, because utopias are generally hard to write a story about because there is no conflict. But in this one, Hamilton Felix is bored, which kind of reminds me of the Monk and Robot books. But this is totally different because it's sort of looking at eugenics, looking at this genetically altered superior man. I am actually very curious about this one. This one is going to be high on my list of what to pick for my TBR. Next up is Darkness and the Light by William Olaf Stapledon. There's a problem. There is no blurb on Goodreads. So we're going to skip to Amazon and just read the little blurb there. In this work, written in 1941 during World War II, Stapledon projects two separate futures for humanity, depending not on the outcome of that particular conflict, but on the future or success of a future-to-beaten renaissance to influence the temper and ideology of the militaristic Russian and Chinese empires that threaten it. One of the futures involves worldwide Chinese imperialism and the subsequent degeneration and extinction of the human race, unable to defend itself against speedily evolving rats. The other ends in overthrowing the empires and creation of a worldwide socialist utopia. I have never heard of this author. I don't know anything about this book, but it sounds very political. It also sounds kind of interesting because it came out, I guess, around 1984. So totally different scenario from that. And I'm wondering how he does the two different futures. Are they two different stories, or is there something else going on? Darkness and the light. Curious. Not sure if I'm into politics this month. Next up is Jonathan's Brain by Curt Siodmak. Now, according to Goodreads, this is book number 1 of the Dr. Patrick Corey series. Have not heard of it. Dr. Patrick Corey is a scientist who, unable to save W.H. Donovan's life after a plane crash, keeps his brain alive through an illegal experiment. The story provides an examination of evil impossible to forget. Donovan is more than one of the world's richest men. He's a megalomaniac, even before Corey keeps his brain alive in the tank. Once freed of the distractions of flesh, the will to power is all that drives him. It communicates with Corey through telepathy, but that's only the beginning. It begins to take over the scientist. Possessed by Donovan's mind, Corey finds himself helpless to fight the tycoon's plans. Corey remains aware as he follows orders, becoming more and more like Donovan. His wife is helpless, his assistant is helpless to stop Donovan's brain. This definitely sounds like a 1950s schlock horror movie. And just looking at the titles of Dr. Patrick Corey books, we have Donovan's Brain, Hauser's Memory, and Gabriel's Body. And it looks like there are 20 years between each book's publication. So that's kind of interesting. Anyway, this sounds like science fiction horror, very Frankenstein-esque. Not sure I'm in the mood for this one. Next we have Islandia by Austin Tappan Wright. Another author I've never heard of. And of course I don't know this book, but let's read the blurb. Austin Tappan Wright left the world a wholly unsuspected legacy after he died in a tragic accident. Among this distinguished legal scholar's papers were found thousands of pages devoted to a staggering feat of literary creation. A detailed history of an imagined country complete with geography, genealogy, literature, language, and culture. As detailed as J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth novels, Islandia has similarly become a classic touchstone for those concerned with the creation of imaginary world. Wow. As detailed as Tolkien's work, and I also see it's over 1,000 pages long. So this seems like a project. This seems like a project to read. And I'm kind of surprised I haven't heard anything about it until now, because it sounds very intriguing, especially since it was published, I guess, after this author died and they found his papers. Of course, this blurb told me absolutely nothing about what the story could be about. But even so, I'm going to move this up to maybe because I'm kind of curious about it. Next up is Second Stage Lensmen by E. Doc Smith. As you know, I read Galactic Patrol for the very first Retro Hugo pick I did, and I wasn't a huge fan of that, so I'm probably not going to pick this, but I'll go ahead and read the blurb. Okay, Second Stage Lensmen is listed as Lensmen book number 5. Kim Kinnison, #1 man of his time, had faced challenges before, but rarely one as daunting as this. To him fell the perilous task of infiltrating the inner circle of Bosconi, stronghold of galactic civilization's most deadly foe. Kinnison had to become a local Bosconian in every gesture, deed, and thought. He had to work his way up through the ranks of an alien enemy organization, right into the highest echelons of power. Then it would be he who issued the orders that would destroy his own civilization. That sounds kind of neat for a Lensman book. Again, not picking this one because I'm not a huge fan of E. Doc Smith's writing, but if you're into space opera, I encourage you to give it a try. And our final nomination for the 1943 Retro Hugos is The Uninvited by Dorothy Macardle. let's go ahead and jump into the blurb. Brother and sister Roderick and Pamela Fitzgerald flee their busy London lives for the beautiful but stormy Devon coastline. They are drawn to the suspiciously inexpensive Cliff End, feared among locals as a place of disturbance and ill omen. Gradually, the Fitzgeralds learn of the mysterious deaths of Mary Meredith and another strange young woman. Together, they must unravel the mystery of Cliff End's uncanny past and keep the troubled young Stella, who was raised in the house as a baby, from returning to the nursery where something waits to tuck her in at night. The second in Tramp's Recovered Voices series, this strange, bone-chilling story was first published in 1942 and was adapted for the screen as one of Hollywood's most successful ghost stories, The Uninvited, in 1944. Okay, obviously this is gothic horror, and I don't even remember seeing this movie, The Uninvited, that was out in 1944, and I do like me a gothic horror story. So this is going to be a maybe 2. I really want to read the Heinlein. And Islandia looks interesting. The other 3 is probably a no. Okay, so Heinlein is a known quantity. I know I'm going to like the writing at least. And Islandia looks like too much work. Over 1,000 pages of this detailed world that's deeper than, or as deep as Tolkien's. I'm a little wary of that, but if you know anything about it, please let me know down in the comments. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and pick Dorothy Macardle's The Uninvited. The reason I'm picking it is you don't see many women writers during the Golden Age. There were a few, but I want to go ahead and do gothic horror. I'm looking for new horror writers, and it said that there were more of these novels. So I'm curious about that. And I may also go ahead and try to see if I can find a copy of the movie, The Uninvited. That'll be fun to sort of do a comparison. And that's what I'm going to do. But I want to also know what you're going to do. Which of these books would you have picked to add to your TBR? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're there, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Until we meet again, may all the books you read be